Hey, everybody, welcome back. We are here for our first vodcast of 2025. And I'm excited because this is another one of our international guests. So I want to introduce you all to Enron Seiti, who is joining us from Tirana, Albania, which is incredible to me. As you know, I'm Albanian by marriage, which is wonderful. It's an exciting country to live in and to visit. And I am so excited to get to know more about Enron and the work that he's been doing with regards to NDBIs to support families and children with autism. Enron, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you to Jamie for the invitation. And thank you for the introduction also.
You're very welcome. And I had the pleasure of knowing you through one of my ESDM advanced workshops. And it's been so great to continue to learn more about what you do with the Help the Life Association, which I'm sad that I didn't know about when I lived in Albania. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you guys are doing, how long you've been around, which is a while?
Sure. Yes, of course. So Help the Life Association, it's a parents association. It started in 1998, so almost 25 years ago. And it started as an initiative of parents who had children with disabilities, and because of the lack of services, because during that time, there were no services available. So that's how it started it. And we've been working ever since with main focus on providing direct services to children and youngsters with intellectual disability,
Mhm.
but also at the same time empowering parents, young professionals, uh, giving our model of services to also other centers in Albania. So we've opened like five different centers in five different cities that they are now running under the municipalities of each city. So basically, this is how we started it. And I've been part of it for almost 15 years now. So since my beginnings. I'm a sibling. I have a sister with intellectual disability and cerebral palsy. So this was the main reason why I got into it. So I was raised with that, my parents working in this field. So that was my motivation going through it. Unluckily, didn't have the chance to meet while you were in Albania. But luck got us together now, so very nice. It's very nice.
Absolutely.
But also in Albania, it's like if I could recall the type of work that we used to do in the beginning, like autism was not very well known before, as in other countries, but in Albania maybe a bit more difficult the situation. And if I can recall our work into it, it started like maybe 10, 12 years ago, maybe. That was the beginning when we had more numbers coming in and we had more children being diagnosed with autism. And sort of it was something new even for us, getting to know it and finding ways how to work with it. And it has been challenging, but it has been like a really nice experience seeing changes and everything. So it's something that we love doing it and we keep doing it. So
Yeah, and you're doing it very well. And if I'm correct, you guys are an NGO, which in the
yes.
US would be the equivalent of a nonprofit.
Yes, the same. We're a non-profit organization. So mostly we are donor-based. So we apply for projects. If we are granted, then we keep working. We keep working and do the work that we do, which is a bit difficult most of the times, because the just to give a little bit of background, in Albania, the service provision for children and people with intellectual or disability or autism, all types of disabilities, is it's really problematic because most of the kids, they do not receive services. And on the other hand, there are no donors to provide direct help for providing services. Our government still now hasn't stepped up his game, like to financially support the organization providing these type of services for the children which they needed. And approximately only 2,000, 3,000 children or people with disability receive services in Albania,
It's not very
which
much.
is less than 5% of them. So this brings up to the situation when parents also needs to pay sometimes, most of the time they need to pay for the service provision of their children's. And the money allowance that they get from the government is very, very small and cannot make up for almost nothing in a sort of way. So this is a background information, and that's why we are like donor-based mostly. So all our work is donor-based, but in several times we need also parents to pay to make up for the other cost, because as you know very well, providing services it's not easy, and it has a certain cost that unfortunately not all parents can cover because we know the situation.
Yes, I feel like we are very fortunate in the US to have our health insurance companies funding 20, 30, 40 hours a week of therapy. Not that every child needs that, but even with that cost being covered with co-insurance and co-pays, that could still run $2,000 a month for a parent to pay out of pocket, which is a lot of money. Nothing compared to if they were funding it by themselves. Before all of the health insurance started to fund it, was very much the same. Parents would find the funds, get money, refinance their house to get money to pay for these intensive programs. And one of the things that I love about NDBIs are the focus of the treatment goals, like what we are trying to really support the children, and how we approach that has such a maximum value. Like we're trying to teach these critical core foundational skills that are going to set changes in motion, as opposed to maybe a more traditional type ABA program where maybe they start with, letters and colors and numbers and matching. Nothing wrong with that, but that's something I would think about for a school age kiddo in a school setting, more academic, as opposed to we are trying to support social communication, social interaction, right? Developmental.
Absolutely.
You get more bang for your buck, if how we say it here. It's more impactful, and especially when we have countries and providers who are limited by resources, that's just a great way to kind of make things work.
It reminded me of something what you said, which is like when we first started providing therapy for children with autism, and since the beginning we focused, as you know, on the Denver model. We weren't properly trained on it. We was like a self-taught, like getting the books, reading and doing and trying and figuring it out. And basically, since the beginning, we were the first one who were working on this idea and this model. Uh, and maybe you know, but the Albanian society is like parents and are very strict on schools and math and reading and writing. And my child needs to read, needs to write, needs to do this 10 plus 10 minus 40. And they're very, very strict on that. And it was a challenge in the beginning, and it still is, to tell you the truth, because most of the parents they were like, no, but my child needs to read and to write since early age. This is the important things. I need to get him to university, and you need to work on this stuff, which was at the time for us, it was like we were just explaining and explaining, and why there are some more important stuff that you need to deal now in the beginning to go there to the next step. And they were like, no, schools and books and math and yeah, because we had this thing about sending university, everybody needs to finish university, and
Yeah.
but the beginning was like that, like they were like, then On the other hand, as you say, like matching and numbers and stuff, uh, maybe what I've noticed is that it's, it's another thing, like, but what I've noticed is like children sometimes learn some things automatically, and but they do not understand what they have learned.
Mm.
But this is like a proof for the parents that they are learning something, that
And
they are
learn.
advancing. And sometimes it's misused sometimes by the professionals to show them, oh, look how well we have done, but the results are not there, like really are not there. It's just like
Yeah.
repeating stuff, so
Yeah.
not
That's
understanding what they're doing in a sort of way. But this is a misusage sometimes, and it
yeah.
happens sometimes,
Yeah.
especially here.
I appreciate your perspective that that shows the parents that the children can learn because it's such a very hopeful thing for families who are still perhaps trying to wrap their head around and understand autism or intellectual disability and that their child just is going to learn differently, not less, just different. And so when they see their children doing things, reading,
Right.
writing, math, I think that's very hopeful. But I also appreciate you saying those are some things that you can just memorize, right? And how is that really going to be applied if they don't understand the context or generalize what they're learning, or they're missing out on social interaction, more important foundational skills that would allow them to really use the academics. So it's kind of this catch. Where do you go with that catch all for that? And then how did you guys find out about the ESDM model? Because that was one of the things that I was so excited to hear was when I lived there, nothing was happening with regards to that. It was more traditional ABA. By definition, adult directed mass trials, tabletop kind of a break. That's how I describe traditional ABA programs. So how did you guys stumble on the self-taught learning that you did?
Yeah, to tell you the truth, was the head of our multidisciplinary team. She's in charge of our multidisciplinary team, and Husni is her name, and she's been working with the association since the beginning, since it started. So keeps working with us, and it was like self-studying. I don't know how she stumbled on it, but she said like she got the books and started studying it, and she said, okay, we will start using this method because I really like it. I think it will benefit us. First, in the beginning, we start working with when we start working with autism, we start working with children 5 and up,
Okay.
because basically how the system would work was that until 5 years old, service provision would be provided by the state.
Okay.
And then after 5, there was a gap at the time.
Mm.
So we said, okay, we'll start working 5 and after. We had a different program at the time. And we used to have like from 5 until adolescence, children with autism until 15, 16. The program was completely different based on age, like independent living, self-care skills, and everything else. But there, working with this group age showed us how important was to start working earlier, because we would see the differences for children coming 5 years old and those coming 8 years old, for example. We saw that the changes were much, much faster. And that was what what took us into early intervention after it said, okay, we need to start focusing on 0 to 1 years old until 4, 5, 6 years old. And those concepts that our colleague had in the beginning, she redid it in a sort of way, and we start working on them, on the basics, on the importance of social skills, social interaction, the importance of parents, involving parents in the process, gaining the child's attention in a sort of way socially, and then after that working with all the other components. And it was a process, learning by doing, but fortunately, uh, we were seeing much more progress for the kids who were receiving services. And we were like, okay, in a sort of way, it's like a confirmation that you are doing something right. You might, maybe it's not 100% at the time, ESDM, clear SDM, but it was something that it was, yeah, the kids were like really progressing, and we would see a lot of progress on them, and it get us going and studying it a bit more and more and more, and in a sort of way getting us where we are now. And so I don't know, I've never asked her, why did you choose ESDM? But it was her guiding all of us,
I
the
love
new
it.
ones. And she
Well,
was like,
thank you to her.
this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and I just appreciate you've been doing this so long and you have the experience, like you shared with the older kiddos, like to really focus on these critical skills that are going to set that learning off on a different trajectory or a path. So if we can get them sooner and focus on these really important areas, by the time they're 8, 10, 15, maybe they don't need as much support because we have really taught them how to learn. And you learn from others socially. So you have to have attention, motivation, all of the things that you listed. And do you guys have, I believe you do, right? You have people who are doing the diagnostic evaluations for children, or do they come to you with an autism diagnosis?
We have both cases. So some of the kids that come, their parents already have gone to the diagnostic system. Officially, only there's a diagnostic center run by state run, which is the only official institution who does official diagnosis. So you
Good.
go there and you have a officially a diagnosis. And we have parents who have gone to that procedure and they come with a diagnosis. But on the other hand, we have parents who really don't know yet. They just know that their child needs a bit of help, or they see differences from one child to another, and they come for to get an idea. So I want to be more clear what sort of way what's happening with my child, because I don't see him reacting much or speaking or other issues that they see at their children. So they come to get an idea. We do evaluation of the kids, and we tell them what we see. And in those cases, when we have, for example, we think they are in the spectrum, we tell them, okay, this is the institution
Okay.
that officially gives you a diagnosis. We have done our evaluation. According to us, this is the issue, sort of. And some of them follow this path. Some others need a bit of time, or some others that don't want to go there and to have an official diagnosis. They're just like, okay, we'll start working, and then after we will see what we will do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's like an acceptance phase of them, a stigma phase coming from society, and they're like, I don't want my child to be uh,
Well,
given a diagnosis and have it for all
yeah.
his life.
Yeah.
And so it's understandable sometimes, but each time we tell them it's important for you to go to get a diagnosis in a way for you to get the help that you might need. So when you're official, then you can have a supportive teacher. You can gain the payments, this allowance and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we tell them what they can gain out of it and what they lose in a sort of way, and then
Choice.
it's their choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's hard for parents to make a choice if it's not an informed choice. And it sounds like what you guys are presenting to them these are the advantages and the benefits of having this label, this diagnosis, and the doors that it's going to open for services, accommodations, and so on. But then on the other hand, Albania, it's very different culturally, and stigma and mental health and services that, you guys are catching up with some of the other countries, like, right? So it's newer. And I remember when I lived there, I believe it was 2015. And it was just ABA was new, and that, right? Like 12, the diagnostic process was newer. That's like a decade ago, right? So you guys are catching up and doing some incredible things in a very short amount of time, working within this system that you have. And I'm just wondering how young are some of the kiddos that are coming to you at the center for either support or treatment or the diagnostic process? Are you getting 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds coming in?
Yes, yes. We're basically now we're working on early intervention, and mostly this is our target from 1 until 6. We have the majority part comes like when they are 3,
Mhm.
less, bit more, 3. But of course, we have cases when they come much earlier, like 2 or 1 year and a half, 20 months. More and more, we're having more youngsters in a sort of way, more they're younger than coming. But it's still like we also have cases when they come 6, for example, 5 or 6, and these having their first meeting with a team of experts, for example,
Yeah.
and they just postponed it and postponed it. It will go, it will pass, it will pass. Uh,
Still there.
Father has spoken a bit late. The child will do the same, because we have also this tradition, like one of the parents maybe have spoken or
Mhm.
a bit late, so it's okay. And we have those cases when they come when they're 6 or 5 or 6, and
Yeah.
yeah, we have both cases, but newer couples, they're a bit more informed, I think.
Yeah, I think so as well. I agree with you. And differences in generations and acceptance and awareness. And you guys do quite a bit of parent workshops, parent education. That's a big part of what you do. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yes, we are also very focused on working with parents.
Mm.
uh, During our experience, like it showed us how important was working with parents. So when we had informed parents, we would see a much faster results while we were working with the kids. So we made it as part of our job, uh, especially with the children that we work directly.
Mm.
So we have regular meeting with parents. We set up home plans that they need to follow at home.
Mhm.
Most of them are just like interaction, games, and social interaction with the kids. When we tell them we will give you a home program, the first is like, but we're not therapists, we cannot do them. It's like, no, just relax. It's just enjoyment. It's playful. It's a game. So you just need to do them.
Mm.
And we see that when parents are active at home, also we see the kids there, like they go very fast in the therapy sessions and in the programs. They can they go really really faster. On the other hand, we also do training parents on different topics, like because as you said earlier, we are an NGO, so apart from providing direct services, we also work with parents, training parents in other cities on different topics on disability, on autism spectrum disorder, more in general, but also on really focused themes as depending on the needs of their parents. So
Yeah. That-
this is it. So, but more and more, you cannot separate why we work with children who have difficulties or maybe have autism.
Mhm.
Uh, it's like it's inimaginable,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
to not involve the parents, because we see it most of the times that sometimes parents are not involved and they don't really know what we are working with their kids. Nobody tells them. It was like, oh, it went okay, it was great, we did this and we did that, but no real support to
Yeah.
understand their children, why they act in a specific way, how can you help them better.
Yeah.
So it,
Yeah.
it's like it's really important. We
That's
also have like lots of information leaflets for parents being in an early stage or just information. We spread them out in kindergartens. We're also working in kindergartens in Tirana, early intervention institutions. So we're giving them out leaflets for them just to start understand and what they need to look out for their kids in a sort of way to catch things earlier. Uh,
you guys are
and
busy.
this is what we try to
I
do
love
here.
that. Yeah, and I love that because there was something I saw somewhere about marbles, little marbles, and it was like a bottle, and that 1 hour a week of uh, speech therapy is one marble. But if you involve the parents in the daily routines and activities, it fills up the jar with more marbles of support. Terrible analogy, but that's the gist of it. And it's so true when you have young children who spend the majority of their time with their caregivers. It's critical that the caregivers are not just involved, but intentionally involved, right? They know what to do. They have the confidence, they feel comfortable, so they can carry over what that therapist is doing for 1, 2, 4, maybe 5 hours a week, right? In the grand scheme of things, every interaction that we can support that child in is going to make that progress happen. And
Yeah, it's really true. And then each time that we're working with parents, we tell them like, you parents have to come. Do you have a nanny that take care of the child, or the Albanian culture of
and
grandmothers and grandfathers taking care of their nephews? They're like each person in the family who spends time with a child. It's very important to come and to participate and to talk together to make things clear for everybody. So it's really important.
yeah, and
Which
to make, oh,
is
sorry.
typical involving parents because they always will do what they want to do.
Absolutely. And they all have
But
their own opinion.
times we have had like really, really, I don't know, prepared in a sort of way of really working together with us. We've had some grandparents who were like incredible, who did a very good job. It was like
That's incredible.
they sometimes understood the situation of the child much better than their parents sometimes.
And they have a different perspective on that, I think, as well, from where they're coming from. You guys also do some direct one-to-one therapy
Yeah.
services. Can you talk a bit about what that looks like now that you've shifted over to ESDM, kind of NDBI, compared to what it looked like before when you guys were starting out with doing those kind of supports? Different.
Yeah, we also do one-to-one working with the kids. Uh, Mostly they go to kindergartens or early education institutions, and they might come early in the morning at us or after they've gone to a kindergarten, for example. Now it's much more structured in a sort of way that we're doing it earlier in the beginning.
Okay.
It's more evidence-based. Of course, the programs now are more specific, more clearer. The objectives are more clear. The means of verification in a sort of way are more clear than in the beginning. So it's a learning process, and we still have a lot to learn. It's not that we're still new to it, uh, but it's more like structured in a sort of way. And it's also difficult, what we find difficult sometimes, because as you mentioned before, here mostly is ABA, everybody's doing ABA in a sort of way.
Mm.
So even when we try to recruit new staff,
Yeah.
it's difficult because they have gone to, most of them, to ABA training. And when they come here, it's like, okay, now we're doing something else.
Different,
And they
very
need to go over basic and training. And what we have found difficult is like this creating the interaction and the social routines. And sometimes it's difficult for them to get involved in and to own this new approach, sort of, and which is a struggle sometimes, because it's like, and
different.
uh, our head of the multidisciplinary team, she's very sad, and she's like, okay, like not everybody's can be a therapist. She always saying like, you have to have some qualities in you to do it. Like you can be a very, like you can follow the
Mm.
program, but it depends how you do it. Like
Yeah.
ESDM has this thing that it gives you the freedom to you to be creative and to try new things.
Love it.
And for some people, if they do not have a clear structure, you do this, you do that, they cannot do it. But at us, it's like, this is the objective. You find a way to sort of make the child interact with you and complete the objective. And like,
It clicks
okay,
and
what can I do? Because they are used to something very different. Like
very
they're
structured.
actually, okay, you have to do this, which
I
is
know.
different.
It makes me laugh because I think sometimes the people that come in, like you're describing, that how they like the protocol, what do I do next? Sit down, do this. It's very structured and very inflexible. And I just giggle because that is what we're trying to support, the children who are inflexible, right? We're trying to help them be creative and adjust their learning when the teaching evolves. And when we have a staff who comes in, it's kind of like, who are we here to support, right? We're here to support the child. But I've seen that multiple times, and I think it's easier to have a protocol. Child sits down, we do it this number of time, go, come back. But that's not how children learn. That's definitely not how young children learn, right? They're hands-on, experiential learners who constantly are moving from toy to activity. And the therapist needs to be ahead of them to create these amazing learning opportunities and to follow that child's learning. And you can't do that with a very structured, adult-driven agenda. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it's the approach. They have like they need to change their completely their approach, how they interact with the child. Yeah, that's really true.
I agree. Yeah. And I think that's really challenging to have staff who are the majority of centers in Albania are a more traditional ABA type of approach. And you guys are one of the few, if any, that I'm aware of that are doing NDBIs. So I would imagine people that are coming to you, you're having to retrain,
Yeah.
undo some training, kind of, sorry, not a good fit. And maybe you find some gems who are amazing and they get it and it clicks. And I think that is very much the case that you're going to continue to see until more organizations adopt an NDBI type of model in Albania.
I'm also like giving you another experience. For example, when we started in the beginning, and when parents used to come, they were like, okay, do you do ABA? We were like, oh, we do not do ABA. Oh, okay, because I need ABA. Like, this is what I'm looking for. I'm like, oh, we're sorry, we do not apply ABA. We do something different. But now it's coming, like we have lots of parents who call us like, do you, so they've heard that we don't do ABA, like, you don't do ABA, right? You're like, yes, we don't do that. Okay, perfectly, because I want to change it. I want something new. I want to try something new because I've worked on that. I'm not quite liking it, sort of. I don't find it useful for my child. So I need to try something new. So we're finding now that parents are more informed and they're looking alternatives that can fit better their children. Because for some children, some type of intervention are better. For some others, something else is working. So.
Yeah.
But now we have seen that different approaches are more like common
Hmm.
than beginning. In the beginning was just like ABA and oh, sorry, you're not for me. I don't I want the ABA and
Yeah.
yeah.
And what a great opportunity to keep kind of enlightening them and informing them. Within NDBIs, we use the science of ABA, but what it looks like is very different in terms of the delivery of the instruction and the teaching. That's where that developmental relationship component comes in and makes the magic happen. And that's why I always try to talk to parents about, kind of like a traditional ABA, like describe it for them. Oh, that type of ABA or that type of intervention, we don't do that. Here's what ours looks like. And we still use science of ABA and, learning, but it looks very different. And here is what we focus on. Here are our teaching strategies. Here's what a typical intervention session would look like, full of play and activities where your child gets to come up with ideas and be creative, and we follow that. And then other times we come up with ideas and we co-construct together. And that seems to sometimes help families as well to understand, again, to make a choice. They have to have an informed choice. They have to understand the difference between what those types of services look like. So I think that's great that you're able to articulate that to them and let them know this is what we're going to do. And this is why we do it, because this population that we serve so young, it's the best model for them at that time.
I don't know, but maybe it's the way that professionally I was supported and the way that we work since the beginning. But when you do what you just introduce now, like with NDBI, like the whole concept of how you work with a child, it's like it's make proper sense in a sort of way. Like it's the puzzle that fits together. So what's missing? This is missing. Okay, we have to work on this and we have to empower it to achieve all other things. Maybe it's the way that we are influenced professionally that gives us meaning to the things that's, but I don't know, but I find it so like very natural thing to do and the way to approach the child. So
Yeah, me too.
I've
I think
never I've never been to other interventions, but this, like, as more naturalistic that it is, it's better it is, I think. So it
yeah.
makes proper sense for me, but maybe I'm like affected by the way I was I was taught, sort of. But
Yeah, I know. I appreciate that. There was somebody on a social media group. I've always done PRT, pivotal response. That's all I know. That's all I've ever done. And I think, oh man, how lucky to just have NDBIs. Like that's where you started at. Because when I started out 30 years ago, it was not that at all in my area. But I appreciate the journey that I've been on, that it was very mass trial Lovacy when I started out. And I had that experience and I learned from that experience. It didn't feel right to me. And as I kept going younger and younger to support children, it definitely didn't sit well. I just didn't think that's how children learn. Right. And so now I've got this kind of evolution of from really structured over here to co-construction with the child, with these younger and younger kiddos. And it just clicks. It just hindsight. I've seen what doesn't work well for the children, and I've seen what does work well, which is reinforcing, which is why I hang out in the NDBI arena. It just is faster. The outcomes are incredible. From a scientific perspective, we can measure that and lay that out there. But there's just an essence and some magic to NDBIs, which are just when you see it and you see it done well, it's just life-changing for some children, right? It's just incredible. And I can't say that about some more structured types of adult-directed programs, because what they're focusing and teaching don't really align with kind of what we're seeing over here in NDBIs. It's just a
Exactly.
priority, right? Yeah, it's very interesting to see. So I'm glad that you kind of have fallen into NDBIs and you have that. Do you have any advice for people that are listening that want to learn more about NDBIs and want to get information about that, or who might want to make the shift happen to how do I do this? How do I go about getting the amazing lady on the multidisciplinary team to guide us in learning more and doing more with NDBIs?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like it's hard sometimes, but I think I think as you mentioned, sometimes you feel that what you are doing, maybe there's something more to it, that something more that can be done. There's maybe another way to do stuff.
mhm,
And nowadays it's so easy to get informed and to get in touch with other professionals. We have had it in our type of work. It's really important to exchange ideas with our colleagues, with staff, with more experienced people, and with other professionals. So I think this helps you get better, but also helps you know a different approach, something that can be useful much. And I think it's very important, this confrontation between professionals. These types of approaches has worked out for us in a sort of way. So we really see results on it. Uh, so I don't know.
yeah.
I think it's worth a try for professionals who are already in this field, and for young professionals, on the other hand, I think it's a much more way to work in a sort of way. It gives you more pleasure in a sort of way. It's
Fun.
interaction. It's not like you, it gives you a sort of freedom within the approach, that's, and
Yeah.
it's more fun. Like if you stay 1 hour during the session, all the session is playful and doing funny things, and so
Yeah.
it's not, I don't know, this is my opinion about it. So
Mhm.
I think it is worth giving a try.
Yeah, and I think it'd be great. I think we should collaborate on translating some of the NDBI materials, just information about NDBIs or a presentation for the community, and translating some handouts for the professionals who might want to learn more about it and come work there, for the parents who want that different type of support for their child. Because I think that's a really big part of dissemination is access. And if it's in a language that doesn't translate and they can't understand, or the context doesn't kind of match the culture, then it makes it hard for people to accept and then implement. So I think we should circle back and translate some really cool documents to start putting it out there so that more and more centers might become interested in NDBIs and just really spreading it across Albania. That would be one of my dreams for
Yeah.
sure.
It, it's doable, I think. Yes, it's something
Doable.
that we can do. We all the time we're like looking in ways of supporting parents and professionals. So this is completely in line with the type of work that we do. We do like very periodically, we do like trainings for young professionals and for parents. Uh, for like giving much more information of what is, for example, the method that we use,
Yep.
like the ESDM. So what's the aim of it? How does it work? In a sort of way to give more information. There are other approaches which can be useful, and it's to give them information like how does it change, what's different, and how do you interact with the child, how do you support the parents, and we give different information, of course, to the parents and different information to professionals, just in a sort of way to promote other interventions and to provide information for them. So
Yeah, that's great. That's a huge step in the direction of dissemination is education and access. So that's incredible that you do that. And I know we've talked about doing a parent one, and I'm so excited to chat with the parents about anything that they wanted to learn about related to NDBIs to help support their children at the point where they're at in their homes. So we have to get that on the books for sure.
sure.
Yeah. Thank you
New
so
Year's resolution.
much. Aims and goals. We've been talking about this for a while, so we're going to put it on the calendar and we're going to make that happen. This has been incredible. I am so excited for people to listen to the really important, impactful work that you're doing in Albania to support NDBIs, and just more and more great things to come in 2025.
Of course.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah.